I have zero sympathy for Angela Rayner. Not a shred of sympathy for Angela Rayner. So for those who are completely unaware before right now, Angela Rayner has resigned. She has resigned not just as the Secretary of State for Housing, she's not just resigned as the Deputy Prime Minister, but she has also quit as the Deputy Leader of the Labour Party. There was a finding from the Advisor for Ministerial Standards that she had broken the ministerial code. Broken the ministerial code over her tax affairs. And basically what this all came down to was that she didn't receive expert tax advice, received some other advice that wasn't expert and wasn't necessarily from taxation. It was about the management of a trust. And that's why she was given the advice to not pay the excess stamp duty. And I'm like, you're the Deputy Prime Minister? Like, you should be taking expert tax advice. It does seem to me to be at least somewhat unfortunate, but if you don't, as you say, digital notice, cross your I's and dot your T's, then you're opening yourself up to making these kind of mistakes, and this is undefensible. It's totally indefensible, and she has no choice but to resign. As I said, like, I don't feel any kind of sympathy towards her. First of all, I don't feel any sympathy towards her because she is a traitor. Now, people are trying to say the left are calling her a traitor because they believe that someone who's working class should act a certain way. No, she's a traitor because she lied. She lied about being a voice for trans people. She lied about supporting the poorest when she was part of a government that kept the two-child benefit cap, that pushed forward cuts to disability, and she abandoned the trade unions that she said she would represent when she went on and didn't back the Birmingham bin strikers. So she doesn't matter to with her class, who she is, where she's from. She was voted in as deputy leader on a certain set of principles, and she abandoned those principles. She totally abandoned her principles to get herself in with the nest of vipers that is the Labour right. She abandoned the people like me who voted for her for deputy leader and used the position that she'd gained to try and gain loads of influence by making friends with the organ grinder. And then what happened? These people rat fuck her. These people totally rat fuck her, and she only has herself to blame. I don't, for one moment, I do not for a single moment believe that the Telegraph just found this out by accident. I don't believe for a single moment that the investigative journalists of the Telegraph have the mental wherewithal to be able to do this kind of investigation into Angela Rayner. I don't believe that for a single second. I am fully convinced, fully convinced that all of this stuff was leaked to the Telegraph by someone from the Labour right. I'm fully convinced of this fact, you know? I'm fully convinced of it. Because, of course, they would do that kind of thing because they know full well that she is somebody who might potentially be someone who would topple the Labour Together stranglehold on the party. So even with her cucking out to the Labour Together wing of the party, I'm fully convinced that they were still out to get her because they knew that Starmer's time was coming to an end. They knew that his position as Prime Minister was getting weaker and weaker by the day because his approval rating is like -60 or something crazy. He is one of the most hated people in the country behind potentially Rachel Reeves at this point. And Angela Rayner was not only somebody who had the trade unions essentially on her side, even with all of the rat fucking that she'd done to the union movement with regards to places like Birmingham. On top of this, she was somebody who could corral all of the kind of Labour background behind her because she was so popular. The only Labour government minister who's more popular than Angela Rayner within the Labour Party is Ed Miliband. So if there was a leadership spill and Keir Starmer was going to step down, she would always be the one who would replace him. Popular amongst the membership, she was popular amongst the public as well. Like, she didn't have like overall popularity, but she was certainly more popular than most other people of the party. And she spoke to a sector of the electorate that the elite professional lawyers and spads and political actors who make up the rest of the Labour Together clique couldn't speak to. Like the lawyers and the economists and the political careerists who are now in the running to potentially replace her, and we'll talk about that in a moment, are all people who cannot speak to the left behind areas of the country in a kind of authentic way that Angela Rayner could. They knew that she was dangerous. They knew 100% that she was going to be dangerous for their continual kind of control over the party because she was elected as deputy, so they couldn't get rid of her, right? So they knew they had to get rid of her somehow. So that's why I think that someone's briefed this to the Telegraph to try and oust her. To try and oust her in the wake of what they must assume would be a forthcoming Labour leadership contest that seems to be on the horizon because everyone hates Keir Starmer. He's not going to be contesting the next election. I'm certain of that. The question is what will be the fallout from this? Of course, there'll be no way of them speaking to the left behind sections of the population moving forward. There'll be no ability of them to be able to get the unions back on side now. Their single person that the unions had in government has now been removed. So the trade unions might start looking somewhere else, given that the current Labour government seems to want to antagonise them at every single turn. So this just seems to be a whole process of rat fucking right from the start. And you have to say, you got what you wanted. What you wanted, Ange. You made friends with the Viper's Nest, and now the Vipers have bitten you when they realised that they could get away with it. We really have reached peak Scorpion and Frogger moment, you know, because this will only be bad for the Labour Party. It'll only be bad for them. It'll only be bad for Angela Rayner, and the only people who can stand to win from this are people on the left, who now have no reason to stick around in the Labour Party, as the one kind of inkling of somebody who represents any of their interests is now gone. And it will hurt them when they lose votes to Reform UK, as the only person in the government who at least speaks with a certain level of authenticity is now gone. That's what Reform UK really have over Labour, as well as standing for certain principles that they are not trusted on. They also speak with authenticity and sincerity this current government literally cannot do, because they've tried to appeal to everybody and appeal to nobody at the time, right? No one wins from this. No one wins from this other than Reform UK and people on the left. The Labour Party have only got further down to go. Yeah, good day for the Greens. Absolutely good day for the Greens. Why should anybody who wants to see, like, some kind of progressive policy prospectus and have any reason to think that the Labour Party are going to change? This is specifically as well within the context of Keir Starmer potentially looking at more welfare cuts in response to the fact that they don't want to raise taxes in the budget. Angela Rayner was the one pushing for tax reform to raise taxes to not cut welfare, right? Like, she was at least left-wing enough, even though she backed a bunch of the welfare cuts before as a minister, to in the background try and push for tax rises to try and dodge the idea of welfare cuts. And even that is too far for these people, and they want to do even more welfare cuts, which weren't even popular in the first place. Two most hated things this government has done: PIP cuts and the winter fuel allowance. And they want to do even more. Like, we are honestly looking at the total collapse of Labour's voting coalition, and I couldn't be happier. Labour have got what they wanted. Rayner's got what she wanted. Labour together have definitely got what they wanted. The Sensibles really are in charge now, aren't they, chat? The Sensibles have never been more in charge. Oh, you're right, Nicholas Thornley. Rayner was indeed soft left, but soft left is the best you're getting. Soft left is the best that you can get with this government. I mean, not even necessarily what you'd even be able to get, because she basically had no power. She basically had no power to be able to affect any amount of soft left policy, and the rest of it is all Labour centrists and people on the Labour right. I do find it interesting, though, that they have immediately replaced her with David Lammy. They're doing some other like reshuffles, like Shabana Mahmood is going out of Justice and into Home. There's going to be a Foreign Secretary point for Yvette Cooper. Just going to add yet another person to be tarred with the genocide brush now. Like, not only has she spent the last 6 months demonising asylum seekers, now she can also be demonised because she is somebody who's supporting a genocide as Foreign Secretary. So good, great, keep going, Labour. It's all going to work out really well for you. David Lammy's been appointed Deputy Prime Minister, which is only going to be bad optics because he's the man who everyone hates. People on the right see him as soft and people on the left see him as a supporter of genocide. As for the Deputy Leader, which is an elected position, they can only appoint an interim, has been pointed out from Ben, thank you, in chat. So there will potentially be a Deputy Leadership election. And if you look at the popularity amongst the Labour membership as to who they most support, here's the league table that was posted by Ben in my Twitter replies. You can see here, Angela Rayner and Miliband were the most popular by quite a margin. I don't think Healy or Miliband would stand. I don't think Hilary Benn would either. Which means that I think that Bridget Phillipson is almost certainly like very high up on the cards as somebody who would be voted in as deputy leader. I think that they want to replace her with someone who fits into a bunch of identity politics boxes. She's someone from the Northeast and she's a woman, which is what they were clamouring for during the original leadership election in 2020, you know? So if there's anyone who I think would get voted to replace Angela Rayner as deputy leader by the membership, it would likely be Bridget Phillipson. But you know, chat, they full want West Streeting. They are desperate. They are absolutely desperate for it to be McShitter. It all feels like a deliberate, choreographed event to try and force McShitter onto the party, to be groomed to be the new leadership figure once Keir Starmer steps down. He's always been earmarked as someone who could be up there when it comes to leadership politics in the Labour Party. The problem, of course, is that they would have to rig it somehow, as he's only on +9. He's way, way down in terms of his popularity internally within the party. I'm hearing from people in the Parliamentary Labour Party that some MPs aren't keen on a drawn-out contest, which means that the threshold of 20% of MPs for nominations might be difficult to cross. That's the thing, right, is that if they essentially try and whip internally within the party to assume that only one person can get over the threshold for nominations, so they essentially have a foregone conclusion to be able to rig it to get McShitter in as the deputy leader, then everyone hates him. And he'll also lose his seat too. Oh, this couldn't be funnier, chat. This literally couldn't be funnier, watching this party crumble from the inside, honestly. I do feel sorry for you, Ben, as someone who's still a member and for some reason still in my chat as I absolutely roast the government day after day in this chat. But whatever, I appreciate your strong resolve. Like, who would stay around in the Labour Party if David Lammy is Deputy Prime Minister and West Streeting gets foisted upon the Labour membership as Deputy, if he's the only person who gets above 20% of the PLP as nominations? I mean, if Streeting becomes a Deputy, they could get in a better person as Health Secretary, wishful thinking. I mean, potentially, but I think they would have him as being both Deputy Leader and Health Secretary, and then have David Lammy continue on as Deputy Prime Minister. Main reasons I'm still here so I can do the Labour for Trans Rights protest at conference this year, and to do London Labour stuff for Sadiq. Honestly, imagine being Sadiq Khan at this point. Imagine being Sadiq Khan and being someone who's basically never put a foot wrong in terms of his reputation amongst his supporter base. You can say Sadiq Khan pisses off a bunch of people outside of London on the right of politics, and for sure that he does, but as Mayor of London, he's barely been outside of the median opinion of his supporters and broadly London residents in his time as Mayor. Just been good at opposing Trump, good at opposing the genocide. He has broadly been good for Londoners in terms of supporting their socio-political opinions and making sure that business rates are at the point that they are to be able to fund social programs in London. Most councils in London are pretty well funded. The overall running of Transport for London's pretty good under Sadiq Khan as well. Imagine that, and then you look at the Westminster Labour Party being an absolute unabashed shit show around you, watching the entirety of your party collapse around you, whilst you're the only person who seems to be even vaguely competent at your job. It's very funny to me, very, very funny to me. Why does going to Oxbridge seemingly qualify people to do anything? That's literally it, isn't it, Digital Gnosis? All these people who are in these positions in the Labour Party currently, who just all shit at their jobs, essentially are only there because they've had elite professions and elite educations. And they, just like within the Conservative Party, feel like that they have a divine right to rule because of it, because of their professional background and their Oxbridge background. That's it. It doesn't matter what their upbringing was, whether the father was a toolmaker or not. They feel like they have a divine right to rule, and they actually get in to their roles as government ministers, and they haven't got a clue. Look at Peter Kyle. Look at Peter Kyle in the tech ministerial position. He's one of the most incompetent people I've ever seen as a government minister. He literally does not know what the hell he's doing. Doesn't know what he's doing. Because these people spent, again, 5 years in opposition not preparing to be government ministers and rat-fucking people on the left wing of their party. And now that they're in government, it's all they know how to do, and they're still doing it. It's incredible. Absolutely incredible. Hey there, if you enjoyed the video, make sure that you like and leave a comment. That helps the video out in the algorithm. If you subscribe and ring the bell, it'll let you know when I go live. I stream every day on YouTube and Twitch. You can also follow all of my socials down in the description. And if you want to support me in a more financial manner, there's a join button for membership. It's just 99p to be a member on YouTube, as well as a Patreon, and there's some merch there as well. And hopefully I'll catch you on the next video. Take care.